All right, it's 3:35, and it looks like this is all going to be recorded. People are not joining. Sorry about the glasses, the funky glasses, but I need them to read. And I will get going on this. Hopefully, I can answer your questions. I think I'll read them so that everybody has the context of what's going on. And this is from JW. And it's in 2015, I was married and filed a joint return. Because of a mistake, a 401k cash out was not reported. I believe the bill was about 6,800. In a later divorce stipulation, the ex agreed and signed that they would pay the full amount of the 2015 bill. The IRS sent me a bill stating I'm liable for 50% of the liability, and then I filed a form to dispute that, and the Jefferson County Court stipulated the IRS was supposed to be paid as well by the ex. I sent in another appeal that looks like I'm going to lose. They don't recognize this agreement, and now I'm liable for 50% of the tax, which is now blown from 15,000 to 6,800. Since the ex-husband has not been paying this, what options do I have? Thanks so much. Well, it's a great question. It's full of a lot of things. There are some good things in here you really need to know. And one is, okay, so, federal law trumps state law. I mean, that's basically the issue of slavery established this. So the issue of slavery in the Civil War was fought over, federal law versus state law. Can the states have slavery and the federal not? And that's where we stand. And so so anyway, federal law trumps state law. So even though a state court says, like a divorce court, any state court says we can do this, it just doesn't work that way. The federal can be like, no, we just won't recognize that, and that's what's happening here. So somebody's telling you that at the IRS that you are responsible for 50% of the tax, and that's not true. It's joint and several liability, meaning that each of you owe the 6,800, which has become 15,000. So your half isn't 15,000. The total is 15,000, and if either one of you pays it, the other one doesn't have to. So, even if you paid quote unquote half of this, they could come and go ahead and get the other half from you. So you owe $15,000. Your ex owes $15,000, and if either of you pay it, the other one, the recourse would be to take them back to court and make them pay that. They owe you the money. So basically, that's what that's about. The other thing in here, let me see. Yeah, and on here it says the IRS, they are saying they don't have to recognize the agreement, and it's true, they don't. Again, federal law trumps state law. And let's see here. I've not been paying this. So basically, what there is, okay, so now that's the footwork. That's where you're at. And there's a couple things that might help you. One, there is a thing called the statute of limitations, and it is 10 years, but that 10 years can be extended, such as while you're filing appeals, depending on the type of appeal, which I can't tell from this, it just says an appeal. Certain types of appeals extend that statute of limitations. So let's say it was a collection due process appeal. That's the one you get that final notice of intent to levy and you file that appeal. That would mean that one would toll or stop the statute of limitations. So they'd have 10 years plus the time that you were in that appeal plus 30 days after that. But so a 2015 tax would be due in 2016. And then, let's say you got audited, and 2 years later they assess, that'd be 2018. So they should have until 2028. So there might be a solution of getting uncollectible or something like that to just be like, all right, don't collect from me. I don't have the money to pay you. And I can't tell from this. This doesn't give me the financial information to know. So that's one solution though. Get uncollectible. Try to get to, basically buy time until the statute of limitations expires. That's one option. There are ways to find out when that statute of limitations is. And we that's the kind of work we can do. If you want me to find out when the statutes expire, shoot me an email. It's Todd at advancedtaxsolutions.com. And that would be not be a free service. That would be something we'd charge you for. But we can find out what the statutes are and that kind of thing. The other thing is called an innocent spouse. So people there's two terms that are very close: innocent spouse and injured spouse. And an innocent spouse is where and there's different kinds. There's three different kinds depending on whether you're still married, and you'd be in the unmarried one, which basically saying it would really be unfair of them to collect from you, and that you really didn't benefit from the money that came in from that 401k. I don't know if that would qualify. It sounds like you guys were living together at the time and you both lived off the money that was cashed out because it was a mistake. And so you may or may not qualify for that, but there is a thing called innocent spouse. And then last but not least, if you're low income, you could do an offer and compromise and try to settle this, saying, hey, I don't have the assets, I don't have the income to pay this, can we settle it for a lot less? And sometimes you can settle these for as little as, we've had them for at least the smallest one for $1, but it's better to offer them something like $100 or something like that. But there is an offer and compromise. So your three options really are: do an innocent spouse that states that, and that's a form saying that, hey, even though I owe this liability, I shouldn't have to pay it because he got all the benefit. I didn't know about the mistakes. It'd be really unfair to make me pay for this. And that's one way. But I don't know, because it seems like you benefited from the money. The other one is to do a uncollectible status, just kind of proving financially you can't pay it. And then the last one would be an offer and compromise when you're trying to negotiate a settlement for less money. So those are the three things that you could try. And you can even do a settlement with special circumstances, like an offer and compromise effective tax administration saying, well, I could pay this, but it'd be unfair. I think that would be the least preferential. If you could do a offer and compromise doubt as to collectability, that would be your best bet if you're low income. But I can't tell that from your income. So from the fun information you gave me. So I hope that helps. Those are the three things I would look at if I was sitting in front of you and looking at your case. That's what I would be looking at. Next question is from BG. After filing our taxes, we owed the IRS a total of $1,000. The value was paid online via direct pay on May 18th. We received notification that the IRS stating that a payment has not been received, and we are to pay this amount by June 27th, so 2 days ago, which is the $1,011 plus some interest. We don't have an issue with paying the interest, but we do have. I don't want to pay twice, which makes sense. Any assistance on how to proceed would be greatly appreciated. We have attempted to contact the IRS by phone, but have been unable to get through. Boy, I tell you, I hear that not every day, but that's just because I don't talk to people every day. But yeah, I hear that all the time, and it's gotten worse lately. It's much worse. I don't get it, but I think it was June 21st, the summer solstice sticks in my mind, so that's why I think it happened. But now you have about even before it was almost impossible to get through, and now you have half as good a chance to get through. So it's just miserable to do that. So it could be, if you can pay, there's all kinds of ways I can think of on this. One, if you have proof that you've paid this, you could fill out an offer and compromise doubt as to liability, saying Somebody just, I'm going to let you admit somebody into the studio. So
Where's the video?
joining, I'm in the middle of something, but we'll keep going, okay? Here, so back to BG. So what you could do is you could submit a doubt as to liability offer saying, if you can prove that you paid this, that would be the first thing, that would be one way to do it. But a bigger issue on this is that you may not know, and this is great news for you. So if you can prove that you paid it, yes, you can do a doubt as to liability. If you can't prove that you paid it, you may want to do another payment and then file a claim for refund down the road. But it depends on where you are in the process, because if you have not gotten a Form 1058, which is the final notice of intent to levy, you have time. And this might be the actually easiest and cheapest way to do this. If you have not received a final notice of intent to levy, that could be on Form 1058, it could be on letter LT11, it could be on letter CP90, and it could be CP91 if you're on Social Security. But any of those are a final notice of intent to levy. The great thing about that letter is that you can do an appeal, a collection due process appeal, and you'd actually have a human being that you could talk to, and they would easily work this out if you can prove that you paid it. But the biggest thing is proving that you paid it. It sounds like it didn't clear your bank account. But no, beyond that, this could be something that you're not asking about, but I'm telling you about that might be great news. There is a thing called first time penalty abatement. And even though it's first time penalty abatement, you can actually do it more than once. But in your case, it's saying that you've paid online, you've done all this for years. And if you don't have any problem in the prior 3 years, you can actually say, okay, I made a mistake this year, but I want a first time penalty abatement. And you can actually call them at that, if you can get through, that's the hard part, getting through. Or you could, in that appeal I mentioned, that collection due process appeal, you could bring it up there. But either way, you can get a first time penalty abatement and get this penalty of $1,000 waived. And it's a phone call or a discussion in appeals. And even if you've paid it, you can file a Form 843 and get a full refund of that amount if they abate it. So if you've already paid it and then you ask for an abatement, you file a Form 843 and get a refund. So great news for you. I know it's miserable trying to get through to the IRS. And again, the best way to do it is through that. If you have not received, like, let's say it sounds like it's a relatively new liability because you're talking about, I think, 2021 and it's only June. So I don't think you've missed your opportunity for a collection due process appeal, but look for that letter saying final notice of intent to levy. And there's a form, I think it's a Form 12153. You can file that form, and that's the form you file this collection due process appeal. So I would highly recommend you do that. And if you do that, then you can get a human being to talk to about this. You can pay them directly. You can see if your payment went to the IRS. That's a big deal. You can ask them to abate this penalty under the first time penalty abatement and actually get a refund. You can do all of that. And so again, either file an appeal and get it done there, or you're going to have to talk with them. You're just going to have to keep calling and try to get through, ask them for the first time penalty abatement, and then ask them for a refund. But to get the refund, you probably, if your check is already cleared, you'd have to get the refund on a Form 843. All right, next. Okay, I got a penalty notice for IRS for $2,100 for late filing. I've used, it says TurcoTax. I like that name, for years. Let's see. I'm actually afraid to read any more of this, but let me just say this. So you owed some money, and you've completed your return. You thought it was filed, it wasn't. No sign that you've been that this been paid. And that, okay, so one, I think you're worried about one, you're not getting credit for the payment and it's never cleared your bank. So that's one issue. And I agree that is a big issue. And also I can see that you don't really have money to, okay. So you can get the penalty abated, the same thing I said before, as long as you had a clean record for the prior 3 years, you can get that penalty abated, the $2,000. So that'll save you a lot of money there. It's a phone call. You just have to get it done, you know, on a phone call. You have to call them up. Or again, if you've gotten that notice of intent to levy, final notice of intent to levy, you can file a collection due process appeal on form 12-153 and get in front of a human being with a lot of power and get this thing taken care of with them. So it says, I saw that. Yeah, it looks like both of these last questions are that your check never cleared the bank, which they're going to say wait 6 weeks. They're going to say that, make sure it clears, and I'd have to say the same thing because there's nothing you can do. But I would make sure that if you get this final notice of intent to levy, that you file an appeal saying, hey, I paid this. You might have to pay it again, but I think you could get the penalty waived for sure if it's the first time. And even if it's not your first time. So there's two types of penalty abatements. One is the first time penalty abatement. That one's really easy. You can do it in a phone call. And you can get that if you haven't had a problem in the last 3 years. But if you have had a problem in the last 3 years, you could do this under reasonable cause. So you'd have to file a formal written request saying, that explaining what you did in this letter, saying, hey, I did everything I could, but it just, I think the problem's on the IRS's side, and please abate this penalty. So I think you can get definitely get some relief on that. And feel free to email me, Todd at Advanced Tax Solutions, if I'm not understanding this right.
It's still there? Oh.
Ask some questions about your finances, knowing that this is recording, but your name's not, other than your first name, people don't know who you are.
Okay.
Because, based on because you're 23, there is a thing like, at the end of the month left over, or was this, let me see if this is based on a streamlined payment agreement. Yeah, I can pretty much tell you this. Yeah, it calculates to the penny, to the dollar. So there's different ways to get a payment plan. And one's called a streamlined payment agreement. And basically you take the balance due and divide it by 72. And that's how your payment plan was set up. And that's why you're on a payment plan for what you are. Now, is it hard for you to pay that each month?
Yes.
Okay. In your case, what you could do is one of two things. It sounds like your income's fairly fixed, right?
Correct.
Okay. So there's two ways to go about this. One, you can just get what's called uncollectible status. And how you do that is you're going to have to write down how much you make, how much your living expenses are. And yours is a little more complicated because you have a significant other that lives with you, correct?
Correct.
Not married?
No.
Okay. So, and this is your liability, not no joint liability. It's just yours.
Well, we filed a joint tax return.
Well, that would make you married.
Well, we've been living together for 13 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, once you file a joint tax return, even if you're not married, you're considered married.
Okay. All right. Works for me.
So what you'd want to do is you can call them and talk through your financial information saying, but before you call them, put it on paper. Say, okay, here's how much I make. How much I make on, here's my mortgage or rent, my utilities. Here's my car payment, if any. Here's my gas, and then food, clothing, miscellaneous. And there's a thing called national standards, and I'm going to give you this. It's on irs.gov. And if you get on irs.gov and in the search, go collection financial standards.
Okay.
Okay. In there, there's national standards and local. Look at the one that's called national standards, food, clothing, and other items.
Okay.
Give them the number off of there for a family of 2. And it turns out that I know that, so for food, clothing, and miscellaneous, for 2 people on a joint return, it's $1,410, so $1,410. So that's what they'll give you for food, clothing, and miscellaneous. I'm guessing you might be living on less than that.
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
That's about half.
Yeah. So you want to, and let me just ask you real quick on your housing, do you rent or own?
We're renting.
Okay, and does your rent include the utilities?
Yes.
Yes.
And let me, I'm going to look up, and what county are you in?
Adams.
Okay, I'm going to look up. So I'm in that same area, and now I'm looking up. I clicked on the local standards, and I'm clicking on Colorado, and I'm going to Adams County. And so for a family of 2, you're allowed up to $2,158. And now I'm assuming is your rent less than that?
It's right around that $2,000.
Perfect. Okay, so let's say 2,000 plus the what did I say, 1,410?
Yes.
That's $3,400 there, and that doesn't include transportation or anything. So do you see how you'd have to go through this whole thing of all your expenses, and if you can prove to them, which I think you'll be able to, that you can't afford to pay them, you can get on what's called uncollectible status. Now, the reason I looked up you can't be living high on the hog. In other words, if you were living in Adams County and your rent was $4,000 a month, they wouldn't do it for you. But I don't see that, and so, or whatever, basically, they'll give you a payment plan of whatever's your leftover income. So you go through all your income, you go through your expenses. Let's be thorough on getting all your expenses. And then whatever that leftover income is, if any, is your payment plan. So you can either get your payment plan reduced to whatever this is, or if it goes down to 0, then you're what's called uncollectible status, and you wouldn't have to pay anything per month. And now I wouldn't recommend somebody that's 25 years old do this, right? Because eventually they're going to make more money. But if you're in retirement age and your income's fixed, once you get in this, you're probably going to stay there. And actually the statute of limitations will run on this, which is 10 years. So if you can get uncollectible long enough, you won't even owe this anymore.
That'd be great.
And
thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, one other option, but it's a lot more. It takes about a year. It's called an offer and compromise. And do you have assets other than your Social Security and stuff? Do you have a retirement plan? Do you have you don't have a house? Do you have a boat, RV?
Yeah. We were trying to build a house in Costa Rica, so we bought land there. And I had an IRA that just got clobbered with the gold and silver prices. So I really don't have much in the way of assets.
Now, the house in Costa Rica, is it paid off?
No, we paid for the land, and we pay in increments as they build. And right now we're working on the foundation and the outside walls. Then they'll charge me for the roof. Then it'll be the interior. Then it'll be all of the finish and then landscaping. So it's paid in increments. It's not all at one.
Okay. You're probably not going to be a very good offer candidate because they might be like, how much should you pay for the land, right? And if
Right.
that could pay them off, they wouldn't, if you have equity in the thing at all, they're going to be like, well, liquidate that and then we'll talk. So
Okay, I follow.
yeah, and collectible sounds like the best way to go for you and
Okay.
just prove. Now, if you want more information, you could get on, there's okay, so I created a program called Do It Yourself IRS Help,
Right.
DIY IRShelp.com. And it's under $100, but there's a program on payment plans that might help you understand how the IRS views the money. But I think I've told you enough, really, that you don't even need to do that. If you put your income here and all your expenses here, and it comes to zero or a little below zero, then you just need to call them and get that done. Basically be like, I can't pay you. Let me, and then they're probably going to ask you for proof, like send me copies of your, bank statements and things like that, proving that you don't have, that your monthly expenses are really what they are. They could do that. They may not ask for anything, but they could ask for certain things to prove
Okay.
your information. But then I think based on what you're telling me, that you can probably get this down to zero and get uncollectible, or at least get your payment plan reduced. And
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry about this.
that's all right. I felt like dancing.
I appreciate all the help for sure. And I'll keep in touch, let you know how it goes for sure.
I would really appreciate that. Yeah, send me an email at Todd, TODD, at Advanced Tax Solutions .com.
Advanced Tax Solutions.
.com. Yeah.
Todd at advancedtaxsolutions.com. Okay, I will
Now,
do, sir.
Advanced has a D at the end. Advanced
Right.
Tax Solutions, and solutions is plural. A lot of people miss that. So yeah, send me also if you something that help us out, if you want to do a Google review saying, hey, yeah, the guy's legit, he cares, I'd sure appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much. I can't thank you enough. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
Yep,
All right.
thank you. Mm-hmm.
Going then. So, all right, now we're going with RM. Let me read this. Okay. So my wife and I were audited for 2018, 19 and 20. The IRS says we owe 33 grand. Like to know how about getting help. There's no way we can pay this. We'll put in an appeal for this coming week to tax court. Would you get involved before we do this or after? You probably are, to do a petition to tax court, you're probably going to need help. Yeah, I mean, you can fill out the petition, but let me tell you how it will work. You literally could spend everything you owe defending yourself, which is sad, but that's how they've made it. It's expensive. It takes a long time to go to tax court, and it's kind of a big deal. But what usually happens when we file a petition to tax court is it's almost always remanded back to appeals. And appeals has the ability to be like, all right, we might be right. They'll listen to why they're wrong, right? They'll listen to you and you can explain to them why they're wrong, that this isn't right. But even if they think, no, you're wrong, we're right, there's a thing called hazards of litigation. In other words, they don't want this to go to tax court, and they might give you they probably will give you a better deal than it, just to keep it out from cluttering up tax court. So I don't think it's a bad idea to file a petition to tax court. But the good news is it's small enough you could do it under, if you do this tax court thing, ask them to do it as a small tax case because it's under 50 grand. You'd be in good shape to do a small tax case. And that's a lot less formal. You don't have to do the briefings and all the formal processes as you'd have to do if you do a full-blown tax court case. But no matter what, 99.99% of the time, they're going to send it back to appeals, and then you can work with them. Now, I don't know, obviously any of your issues. I don't know if your case has any merit at all. I just don't know. You may want to call Advanced Tax Solutions and try to get an appointment. And maybe we can do it. I wish you were on the phone call on this call. I'd ask you some questions and maybe we can help you. But, based on what you're saying, usually when we file a tax court petition, we would do it before you filed it, but if you file it on your own, we could at least represent you before the appeals when it's remanded back down. So hope that helps. Feel free to give us a call. The last person, TW, that's my initials too, TW. We will probably owe about $3 grand on our 22 taxes. Is there a penalty for owing such amount? Okay. So the rules are, the question is, I'm going to owe about $3,000. Is there going to be a penalty for owing that much? And the answer is probably, it depends. Anytime you owe over $1,000, they can charge you a penalty for underpaying your taxes. And, on $3 grand, it wouldn't be that high, but still, but if you paid at least as much as your prior year, then they would waive that. There would be no interest, meaning if you paid at least as much in taxes in 2022 as you did in 2021, you could owe the money, but there wouldn't be any interest for underpayment of estimated tax payments. Just make sure you file and pay by April 15th of 20, when you file your 22 return, which would be in April 15th of 23. So I would just you can make an estimated tax penalty. You can make an estimated tax payment and or increase your W-2 withholdings and get it up enough to either cover the tax or cover at least as much as was paid in last year. That would avoid any penalties because, again, you either pay it down to under $1,000 or pay at least as much as your prior year tax liability in total, or if it's 90% of your current year's tax, if you've paid any of those three, then you fall into the exception to the penalty. In other words, they're saying you tried, so we're not going to charge you a penalty. So that's the answer to that. I'm sorry you're going to owe the money, but you're on the right track by asking. So that's all the questions we have today, and I hope it helps. And we'll talk soon. All right, let me know if I can help. And again, I do this for free. I'd really like to help you. A lot of times, smaller cases, it's not worth paying a professional. So just as a community service outreach, I try to do this and help you out verbally at no charge. If you are able to do a Google review saying, yeah, they really tried, we would appreciate it. That's about the only benefit we get out of this. Other than the satisfaction of knowing, hey, helped a lot of people. So feel free to email me at todd@advancedtaxsolutions.com or todd@DIYIRShelp.com. todd@IRShelp.com. Excuse me, that is completely wrong. todd@DIYIRShelp.com. Again, that's todd@DIYIRShelp.com. If you send questions, I'll try to help you out. And at least I'll let you know, hey, this is something we would charge for, or maybe you want to use the DIY, services and set up payment plans and offering compromises that way. All right, this is Todd Whalen signing out. Hope you have a great week. Take care. Bye.